Nice, nestled along the glamorous French Riviera in the south of France, it is a Mediterranean city that boasts more shades of blue than a Picasso painting. And to the French who flock to it every summer, Nice is like a fine wine, it just gets better with age. Which is quite handy, given that it's been around since the days of the ancient Greeks, just like its next-door neighbor Marseille. But this French city was not always a part of France, but was changing allegiances. This has led to a culture, language, and flag that is a mix of French and Italian, like an exotic cocktail at the beach. So let's explore a few interesting facts about Nice. The French Riviera actually has plenty to offer during the colder months. Even in its coldest days, Nice still has really pleasant temperatures in comparison to most European cities. The average temperature in December, for example, is around 14°C. So there's no need to worry about extremely cold weather while visiting Nice during winter. Spanning an impressive 7 kilometers stretch from Nice airport to the headland of the Colline du Chateau in the east, the most famous promenade in France is known locally as Le Prom and is named for the English who paid for its construction. Back in the 18th century, many wealthy English men and women chose to make the English Riviera their second homes for the winter months, when the climate in the Bay of Angels was oh so much better than back in rainy England. The two most popular cities for wealthy Europeans were Nice and nearby Cannes. The Promenade d'Anglais was built in the 1820s at the behest and funding of Revered, together with the Holy Trinity Anglican Church. At this time, the Promenade wasn't even part of France. Up until 1860, the city of Nice was a part of the House of Savoy, which in turn became a part of the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia, which eventually went on to become a part of what is now modern-day Italy. The promenade then rose to true prominence with the decision taken by Queen Victoria to holiday in Nice during the late 19th century. By the beginning of the 20th century, the Grand Hotel had been constructed and what are now Massena Museum and Museum des Beaux-Arts were grand private homes. Nowadays, La Prom is an essential part of daily Nice life. And while the attraction is obviously popular among tourists, it's also used by rollerbladers, runners, and skateboarders on a daily basis.
Make the best of the situation before I finally go insane. Please don't say we never found a way. Tell me all my love's in vain. Layla, you got me on my knees. Baby, don't you?
Precisely at noon every day, a cannon is shot in the city of Nice. The story dates back to a retired Scottish soldier and his wife, who were living in the city for several months every winter. As the story goes, it was 1861 when Scottish Lord Thomas Coventry More got into an argument with his wife for coming home late and not having his lunch ready. Every morning, she would go out for a stroll, meet other British ladies, and spend hours gossiping about what was happening around the French Riviera. Tired of having his lunch prepared late, Army retiree Thomas asked the locals to fire a cannon every day at noon so that his wife would hear it and come home. He paid for it for years, until the couple finally stopped coming because of old age. However, by that time the local Nicois had gotten used to it, and decided to pay for the cannon themselves. These days, it is a firework and not a cannon, but the sound is similar. The Hotel Negresco is a hotel and site of the restaurant Le Chantecler, located on the Promenade de Anglais on the Baie des Anges in Nice, France. It was named after Henri Negresco, who had the palatial hotel, constructed in 1912. In keeping with the conventions of the times, when the Negresco opened in 1913, its front opened on the side opposite the Mediterranean Sea. Alexandre Negresco, a director of the municipal casino in Nice, had the idea to build a sumptuous hotel of quality that would attract the wealthiest of clients. After arranging the financing, he hired the great architect of the Café Society, Edouard G. Neermans, to design the hotel and its now famous pink dome. The spectacular Baccarat 16,309 crystal chandelier in the Negresco's Royal Lounge was commissioned by Tsar Nicholas II, who due to the October Revolution was unable to take delivery. Contrary to popular belief, the large window of the Royal Lounge, listed as an historical monument, is not the work of Gustave Eiffel. Eiffel never worked at the Negresco. Instead, it is entirely the work of Edouard G. Neermans. The Massena Museum, the architectural jewel of the Promenade d'Anglais, evokes through its collections the art and history of the Riviera from the time of the attachment of Nice to France until the end of the Belle Époque. The villa is sumptuously decorated at the end of the 19th century. The upper floor has a diverse display ranging from a headdress worn by Empress Josephine and a black parasol to advertising posters for Nice appealing to the rich Edwardians who came for the warm winter. Cap de Nice and Mont Boron is a peaceful exclusive area to the east of Nice and is a mix of affluent residential properties and a national park. Perched on one of the collinas of Nice, Mont Boron sits at just over 190 m and is home to a forest that covers 57 hectares and contains about 11 kilometers of footpaths that are perfect for exploring the area, including a 1.5 kilometers fitness trail with exercise stations. Cap de Nice is not so far from the town itself, but is a bit cut off due to its elevated position and its location on the peninsula. At the very peak of Mont Boron you'll find Fort Alban, built in 1557 on the orders of the Duke of Savoy in response to the siege of Nice. Only the outside of the fort is accessible, the inside is closed to visitors. But it's almost perfectly preserved and well worth the hike up for a look around. It's a real fairy tale castle with turrets, towers, and a drawbridge. More recently, the Batterie du Mont Boron is a 400 m long military bunker built in 1886 to protect the Baie des Anges. Take a stroll around the Circuit de Bellevue, which follows the walls of the battery and looks out over the bay between Nice and Villefranche-sur-Mer, and is a mix of affluent residential properties and a national park. Historical markers are in evidence all over the area, from the Paleolithic era to the present day. It is now possible to reach the shores of Villefranche from Cap de Nice. Many beautiful properties have been built here because of the glorious views from the city of Nice all the way to Cap Ferrat. At the foot of Mont Boron is the Grotte du Lazaret, a prehistoric cave that has revealed remains of prehistoric animals including woolly mammoths, panthers, lynx, and bears alongside human remains that suggest that it was occupied almost 200,000 years ago. This sporty hike through a protected wilderness, on irregular ochre-colored terrain, along steps cut in the bedrock and wooden footbridges, provides an opportunity to discover the splendors of the coast. Start from Coco Beach or the Basse Corniche via the steps at La Pointe de Sans-Culotte. It is important to wear hiking shoes. Walking this coastal path is to feel apart from the bustle of Nice and to become one with the sea and rocks. The walk is gentle and natural with vistas opening up that take your breath away. You can begin at the first stairway down to the beach and continue along the coast. Take a break for a snack, sun yourself, and swim. Of all the places that are essential to see in Nice, there are two attractions that are a must. It's hard to ignore them because they are both in the open air and very visible. One of them is Castle Hill, with its ruins of a defensive walls, an artificial waterfall, and an elevator built into the rock. The second is, of course, the Promenade d'Anglais. Top tourist question: why is there no castle on the Nice Castle Hill? The Greeks were the first to colonize the hill above what is now the Old Town, during the Greek Empire. In 4th century before Christ there was a Greek settlement called Nicaea situated here, while the first mention of the castle and cathedral dates back to the 11th century when these buildings were the center of the town on the hill. The hill had two amazing attributes. First, there was a natural freshwater spring bringing drinkable water to the top of the rock, which could sustain a village. The second was its formidably strategic location, jutting out into the sea for maximum visibility of invaders, and thus, the Greeks named it Victory or Nike, later Nizza, and now Nice. Nice lost its castle in 1706, thanks to the flamboyant monarch Louis XIV, who was the first to conquer the castle by a fluke of luck. During an attack that was otherwise doomed to fail, a cannonball lobbed over the fortress walls flew through a tiny window and landed in the munitions storage, causing a massive explosion that killed hundreds and blew out the side out of the stone fortress, allowing the enemies to invade. After Nice was conquered, Louis XIV wanted to ensure that he would never have to reconquer it, so he ordered the legendary castle, fortress, and village walls to be dismantled stone by stone, many of which ended up paving the Promenade d'Anglais. Castle Hill in Nice, Colline du Chateau, dominates the city and divides the seaside part of Nice into two parts, the eastern part with the port, and the western part with the old town of Nice. The 92-meter-high hill offers views from all sides, and tourists take the most recognizable photos of Nice from here. Later on, a place for a cemetery was made on the hill, and a large municipal park with a restaurant was built. There are several possibilities for getting to the top of Castle Hill. It is recommended to choose the staircase right next to the Promenade d'Anglais, or the lift that is available in the same place. It is worth knowing that it was built into the place where a well supplying the former castle used to be. The building that looks like a huge barrel just by the stairs is the Belanda Tower, which now houses the Maritime Museum. It was built in 1826 and is a reconstruction of one of the bastions of the former castle. The French composer Hector Berlioz lived in it. Here he wrote, among others, the famous King Lear Overture. Place Garibaldi is a large square in Nice, located on the northern edge of the Vieux Nice district. Built from 1773 according to the plans of the architect Antoine Spinelli, it is the oldest square in the city and one of the most emblematic places. Towards the middle of the square is the monument dedicated to Garibaldi, surrounded by a square basin of 17 meters. After being renamed several times, which at one time Place Napoleon is September 13, 1870, on a proposal of the prefect Barignan, it acquires its current name of Piazza Garibaldi, in honor of the general and the Italian politician, born in Nice, Giuseppe Garibaldi. Few years ago, while jackhammering up Place Garibaldi for the new tramway, the workers noticed some strange stone structures just 10 centimeters below the asphalt. That turned out to be the remains of the ancient city dating back to 1380. Mandated by law to uncover the ruins, and delaying the tramway by a year, the city-sponsored dig slowly uncovered the mysteries of a medieval Nice long forgotten. Place Garibaldi, it turns out, was the site of the entry to the walled fortress that was the chateau, complete with turrets, a moat, a drawbridge, exterior walls, an aqueduct and outbuildings. The construction of the Church of Our Lady of Graces, also known as the Church of the Vow, was decided in 1832 to thank the Virgin for preserving the city from a major cholera epidemic, which had affected Marseille and Toulon. The aim was to honor the promise made a few years earlier by the elected representatives of Nice. It is located on the quay of St. John the Baptist, which is why it is also called the Church of St. John the Baptist. In neoclassical style that marks the influence of Turin architecture and urbanism on the town planning of Nice, the Church of the Vow is the work of the architect Charles Mosca, who was inspired by the Palladio style, with its columned portico and pediment adorned with Nice weapons. The facade is crowned with a white marble statue by Giovanni Perini depicting religion. Trees, shrubs, and plants from all continents come to Nice along this walk. Thanks to the magic of a Mediterranean climate, the characteristics of which can be found in numerous biotopes around the world, this green promenade invites you to a botanical journey without jet lag, with promises of trees in flower every season. Through this walk, we can encounter the plant environments of the Mediterranean, Asia, Africa, Oceania, and Australia, South and North America. The Green Promenade du Paillon won the grand prize from the Victoires du Paysage 2014 jury. On the edge of Place Massena, on the site of the former Jacques Medicine Forum, a vast mirror of water offers its reflections and sparkles, a 3,000 square meters lake equipped with 128 water jets. Sound and light shows can be organized there, thanks to general interconnection and a computer system allowing multiple scenographies. Complex and invisible machinery, with 6 kilometers of underground pipes, allows the organization of aquatic shows. On the edge of Avenue Felix 4, 300 cubic meters of concrete were poured to house, in the basement, a technical room with its water reserve and the controls for the hydraulic and electrical systems. The aquatic change of scenery continues on the other side of Place Massena, in the Albert I garden. Welcome to the Mist Plateau, its natural stone paving of basalt and limestone and its mist. Over an area of 1,400 square meters with 960 misters, 60 boxes, each equipped with 16 nozzles, allow the sprinkling of very fine droplets, giving rise to a giant cloud in which you can freely wander. If you visit Place Massena, in the very heart of Nice, you will see a large fountain called the Sun Fountain. There are 5 bronze sculptures in the basin, and in the center stands an impressive marble Apollo. He is 7 meters, 23 feet tall and weighs in at 7 tons. He is definitely the king of the square, and you would think this giant would be admired and respected, but not by the Nicois. When the Sun Fountain was unveiled in 1956, the people were not impressed. Apollo's job, according to mythology, is to carry the sun across the sky every day, and he usually does this in his chariot, pulled by 4 horses. But this Apollo didn't have a chariot, and the 4 horses were on top of his head, forming a sort of crown. The spectators claimed that he looked like an advertisement for the most popular automobile at the time, the Renault 4CV, known as the 4 horsepower. So the magnificent Greek deity was saddled with the nickname, the 4 horsepower statue. But there was a bigger problem, and it was located further down the nude sculpture. Some conservative inhabitants of the city thought that his manhood was too large, while some older ladies thought it was too small, and college students took to decorating it as a prank. In an effort to calm the controversy, the sculptor took a hammer and chisel to his creation to reduce the size of the offending member. His embarrassing surgery proved to be insufficient. It wasn't enough to satisfy the Catholic Women's League of Feminine Virtue. He was still nude, as were the bronze statues. The virtuous women gained enough support that in the 1970s the fountain, with its naked sculptures, was dismantled. Finally, in 2011, Apollo was reinstated to his rightful position. Today he stands at the center of the fountain in Place Massena, proudly surveying the plaza and all of the passerby. The Sun Fountain is once again complete and as the artist intended. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for Apollo. But he is quite an impressive sight, even if there is a little less of him than there used to be. Considered one of the most important Orthodox buildings outside the Russian Federation, this cathedral is the result of the efforts of the royal family to satisfy the spiritual needs of the growing Russian population in Nice. It all started in the mid-1800s when the Russian upper class, as well as the Tsars, started visiting the French Riviera during winter, as their English counterparts had been doing for some decades before. Unfortunately, during a visit in 1865, the son of Alexander II, Cesarevich Nicholas Alexandrovich, died of meningitis. Some time later, after buying the land, the Tsar and the Empress ordered a chapel built in the exact spot where Nicholas died. The structure was made in the old Russian style, however certain modern elements give this cathedral its own identity. For instance, the disposition of the Greek cross plan with 5 domes representing Jesus and the 4 evangelists. The church also contains a rich iconostasis made in Russia by the Klebnikov workshops. From 1923 to 2010, the cathedral, the gardens and the chapel were under management of the Russian Orthodox Cultural Association of Nice, but in 2006, the Russian Federation claimed the right to property based on the fact that the cathedral was on private grounds owned by the imperial government at the time of the Communist Revolution. The French courts sided with the Russian government and the church management was transferred to them, not before several appeals and refusals from the association, in 2011. Located in the heart of Old Nice, the Cours market offers a gorgeous setting for all of the following: Cours Flower Market, the Fruit and Vegetable Market, the Nice Antique Market, and the Artisanal Night Market. The Cours Flower Market, or Marché aux Fleurs Cours actually includes the fruit and vegetable market also. The flower part of the name harkens back to 1897, when Nice started the world's first wholesale flower market and shipped carnations all over Europe. And, indeed, flowers do comprise a good portion of the Cours flower market. Even during the winter in Nice, you can count on a colorful display. The selection includes everything from plants like orchids, ferns, and cacti to bouquets of sunflowers, lilies, and roses. Nowadays, however, locals come to the flower market in Nice not only to pick up their flowers, but to purchase their daily produce too. Under brightly striped awnings, vendors display seasonal fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, olives, dried fruits, and Mediterranean spices. All of these colors make it the most Instagrammable market. The confusing thing about these two nice markets that seem like one market is that they have separate hours. Flower market has longer hours than the food market. The old town of Nice is made up of tall tenement houses lined up along narrow and shadowed streets. To the south it borders on the Promenade d'Anglais, while to the north it touches the Paillon River, or rather the Promenade of Paillon, because the river has been flowing through the city in an underground channel since 1972. The old town of Nice lies just below Castle Hill. The ground floors are occupied by restaurants, shops, and the galleries of local artists. The names of streets in the old town are written in two versions, in French and in the local Niçart dialect. You can buy everything here, from Provençal spices to handmade jewelry and cosmetics. Located in the heart of the French Riviera, you might think of Nice as only being somewhere to go in summer, which is totally understandable. Blue skies and beautiful beaches are not the usual images of European winter. From beautiful snow-covered mountains less than 1 hour away and stunning sea views to delightful cuisine and vibrant culture, there's a lot to enjoy in Nice during wintertime. Even on the coldest days in winter, Nice still gets plenty of sunshine, which makes it the perfect place to spend some days relaxing and going for long walks by the sea. The annual Nice Carnaval takes place in February, and it's an event you don't want to miss if you're visiting during this season. The carnival is filled with music, bright colors, costumes, performances, and more, a fun way to experience the city's traditional culture. If you visit Nice during December, don't miss the Christmas market. Even though it doesn't snow in Nice, the market still manages to bring a bit of a winter wonderland feel to the city. You will find everything from traditional food and drinks to souvenirs, decorations, and more. Also, it's the perfect place to try raclette, one of the most traditional French winter dishes. Skiing is possible within 1 hour from Nice. There are many ski resorts close to the city, and they offer a great variety of slopes for all levels. You can easily get to the ski resorts nearby by taking a day trip from Nice.
Akubala fofona mbekuma mbekuma na sura lima bana
Few Nice sites can rival its old port, bordered by colorful pastel buildings and filled with boats of all size. For mega yachts, you'll have to head to the deeper waters of Antibes, but the Nice port has more old-fashioned charm. Try to go in mid-afternoon when the sun's golden rays fill the port with color. The construction of the port was a project of Charles Emmanuel III, Duke of Savoy, who directed it from his capital at Turin. Work began in 1750 and the port opened to traffic in 1752. But, it soon became clear that the port was too small and had a tendency to silt up. Improvements were made, but it wasn't until 1829 that King Charles Felix took matters in hand and made the necessary enlargements. One of the port's most relaxing activities is browsing the paintings, vintage furniture, lamps, and sundry bric-a-brac in the Marché aux Puces. You never know what you'll find. The flea market has only been here since 1995. It began shortly after World War I as a series of stalls along the banks of the Paillon River, now Boulevard Risso, and was meant to help war widows, orphans, and veterans earn money. In those days, everyone from countesses to clochers to actresses looking for unusual get-ups came to shop there. When the Paillon River was covered in a series of 20th century projects, the question of where to relocate the stalls became pressing. For a while, they had a space in front of the monument aux Morts, but they complained that it was too hot and sunny. Finally, this attractive little flea market village was constructed especially for them in 1995, and they've been here ever since. The beloved Lou Passagen service is a free shuttle that runs between the eastern and western quays. Although there are no longer fishermen hauling their catch into the port, you can eat fish and seafood in one of the many restaurants bordering the port. The eastern bank is where to go for dining. There are restaurants of all price ranges. If you're visiting Nice during winter, you'll get to experience what life is like for the locals when tourism slows down. You'll be able to interact with real Nice people and have authentic conversations in cafes and shops. Despite the cooler temperatures outside, most of the bars and clubs are still open for business. And the best part is that during winter, popular bars, like Waka Bar and Wayne's, are way easier to get into and actually have a good time. If you are thinking of going on a day trip from Nice to Monaco, winter is the perfect season to do so. The mild temperatures make it pleasant to walk around, and you won't have to worry about crowds. Since you probably won't be going to the beach that much during winter, you can enjoy Nice and its surroundings in as little as 3 days. That's plenty of time to explore all the sights, partake in some activities, and enjoy the nightlife scene. However, if you want a more relaxed getaway with lots of leisure time, or do more day trips, then you should definitely stay for a week.